Maya was sitting on my kitchen floor with her back against the dishwasher, holding a glass of red wine she hadn't touched in 20 minutes, and she would not look at me. Her suitcase was already by the door. Two of them, actually. The big navy one with the broken wheel she refused to replace, and the smaller carry-on with the Berlin Hauptbahnhof sticker she'd slapped on it last week when the job offer became real. Her flight was at 6:40 the next morning. I was supposed to drive her to JFK at 3 a.m. We'd planned this night for weeks. Cheap wine, the dumplings from the place on Marcy, the playlist we made in 10th grade that still made us cry at track 6. A normal goodbye between two women who'd been best friends since we were 7 years old, and Mrs. Hallberg sat us next to each other in 2nd grade because we were both quiet and she thought we'd cancel each other out. Instead, Maya said, "I need to tell you something before I go, and I think it's going to make you hate me." I laughed. I actually laughed, because Maya was dramatic, she'd always been dramatic, and I assumed she was about to confess she'd kissed my college boyfriend at some party in 2014, or that she'd told her mom about my abortion. Something I could forgive in the morning. She said, "It's about Daniel." Daniel was my older brother. Daniel died in a car accident on March 14, 2011. I was 17. He was 21. He was driving home from his girlfriend's apartment in New Brunswick at around 1 in the morning, and his car went off Route 18 into the embankment near the Donaldson Park exit. The official report said he'd been drinking. 2 drinks, under the legal limit, but enough that the insurance company danced around the payout for almost a year. My whole family rebuilt itself around that night. My mother stopped going to church. My father started. I changed colleges last minute to stay close to home. I broke up with a boy I loved because I couldn't stand being touched. I spent my entire 20s in therapy peeling back the layers of a grief that had calcified into my personality. Maya was there for all of it. She slept in my bed the week of the funeral. She drove 4 hours from Ithaca every other weekend my freshman year of college because I was having panic attacks in the dining hall. She held my hair back the night of his would-be 25th birthday when I drank a bottle of his leftover Jameson and threw up in her car. So when she said his name on my kitchen floor at 11 p.m. the night before she was leaving the country, my stomach dropped before my brain caught up. I said, "What about Daniel?" And she said, "I was in the car with him." I want you to understand. I want you to feel what I felt in that exact moment, because I have been trying to describe it to my therapist for 3 months and I still cannot get it right. It was like the floor of my life dropped 6 inches. Everything was still in the same place, but nothing was at the same height anymore. I said, "No, you weren't." She said, "I was." I was in the passenger seat. I got out before the cops came. I walked to the gas station on Route 18 and called my dad, and he picked me up and we never told anybody. I need to back up. Because the lie wasn't just that she was in the car. The lie was 22 years deep. Maya and Daniel did not, as far as I knew, have any relationship. He was 4 years older than us. When we were in high school, he was already gone. She'd come over for sleepovers and he'd be a closed bedroom door. That was it. That was the entire dynamic. Or so I had believed for my entire conscious life. What she told me, sitting on my kitchen floor, was that when she was 16 and he was 20, they had started something. Nothing dramatic at first. She'd come over to wait for me to get back from my SAT prep on Tuesdays and he'd be home. They'd talk. Then they'd text. Then, the summer before he died, they'd been sleeping together for almost 10 months. She was 17 when he died. She'd been at his apartment that night. They'd had a fight because he wanted to tell me and she didn't, because she was scared I'd never speak to her again. They got in the car. He had 2 drinks in him. She was sober. She offered to drive and he said no. When the car went off the road, she hit her head on the dashboard, but she was wearing her seatbelt. She climbed out of the passenger side. She checked his pulse. She told me, on my kitchen floor, that he was already gone. That his eyes were open. That she sat next to him in the dirt for what she thinks was about 4 minutes before her survival instinct kicked in and she realized that if anyone found her there, her life was over. She was a 17-year-old girl who had been sleeping with her best friend's older brother in secret, and he was dead, and there was alcohol in his system, and she would be the story for the rest of her life. So she walked. She walked almost 2 miles to the gas station. She called her father. Her father, who I had known since I was 7, who had taught me how to ride a bike when my own dad was working doubles, drove out there at 2 in the morning and picked her up and took her home and told her to take a shower and never speak of it again. And she didn't. For 22 years. She came to my brother's funeral. She gave a reading. She wore a black dress and held my mother's hand at the wake. She let my family love her through their grief while she carried the thing that would have shattered us. On my kitchen floor, she said, I have wanted to tell you every single day since I was 17. I tried. I tried at your college graduation. I tried the night you got engaged. I tried when your dad got sick. I couldn't do it. And I cannot get on that plane tomorrow without you knowing. I didn't say anything for a long time. I remember looking at the dumplings, congealed in their plastic container on the counter. I remember thinking, very stupidly, that I should put them in the fridge. Then I said, get out. She started crying harder. She said, please. Please, can we just? I said, get out of my apartment. She stood up. She picked up her suitcases. She asked if I would still drive her to the airport and I just stared at her until she understood the answer. She called an Uber from the hallway. I could hear her crying through the door for almost 20 minutes before the car came. I sat on the kitchen floor where she had been sitting and I did not cry. I called my mother. It was almost midnight. I told her I needed to come over in the morning. I told her it was about Daniel. The next 18 hours are a blur I will not try to recreate for you. I will tell you that I told my mother everything. I will tell you that she sat very still on her couch for almost 10 minutes before she said one sentence, which was, I always wondered why she came to the cemetery alone on his birthday. I did not know Maya went to my brother's grave alone. I had never known that. I had been going for 12 years and never once seen evidence of her there, but my mother had, twice, from her car, in the parking lot, and had assumed it was sweet. Maya landed in Berlin. She texted me from the airport. I did not respond. She texted me the next day. And the next. After 2 weeks I blocked her on everything. This is the part where you probably want to hear about revenge. About what I did to her. About whether I called her new job, whether I emailed her new German boyfriend, whether I told her parents' entire church congregation what their daughter had been hiding for 2 decades. I did none of those things. I want to be honest with you. I thought about all of them. I drafted the email to her new employer. I had her father's church's address written on a post-it on my desk for a month. What I did instead was this. I waited 3 months. I let her get settled. I let her start to believe that the silence was going to be the punishment, that I was simply going to vanish from her life the way she deserved. And then I wrote her one letter. A real letter, on paper, and I mailed it to the Berlin address she'd sent me before she left, back when I was supposed to come visit in the fall. In the letter I told her that I had spoken to my mother. That I had spoken to my father. That my parents now knew everything. That her parents now knew everything too, because I had sat down with her mother at a coffee shop in Montclair and told her, calmly, what her husband had done the night my brother died. I told Maya that her father had moved out of her parents' house. That her mother was not speaking to him. That this was not revenge. This was simply the truth being where it should have been for 22 years. I told her I did not want a response. I told her I hoped Berlin was beautiful. I told her that I had loved her more than I had loved almost anyone in my life, and that the worst part was that I still did, and that I was going to spend a long time learning how to stop. I mailed it. I did not hear back. I did not want to. It has been almost a year now. I still dream about her. Not bad dreams. Regular dreams. We're at the diner on Bloomfield Avenue. We're at her cousin's wedding. We're 7 years old and Mrs. Hallberg is moving our desks together. I wake up and for about 4 seconds I forget, and then I remember, and then I get up and make coffee. Here is the thing nobody tells you about being lied to for 22 years by someone who loved you. The lie doesn't just take what it took. It takes the love too. Because you cannot keep the love clean once you know what it was sitting on top of. She was my best friend. She was also the last person to see my brother alive. Both things were always true. I only got to know one of them.